In this video, we're going to discuss a solution to the problem of connectivity for live sound performance and amplification with iPad ensembles, or indeed any combination of electronic musicians using computer devices or other electronic hardware as instruments. This is in response to increasing requests we've received for info on the subject from teachers, general school staff and students in particular, who find themselves faced with the new task of connecting multiple purely electronic devices like iPads, smartphones or laptops directly to a PA system for an electronic ensemble performance as digital music technology options become more popular as a live performance medium. The following instructions assume that you already have a PA system and mixing board of some description available and have some basic experience connecting things to it, like microphones and perhaps a laptop for interval music or backing tracks. While there are a few options for managing the audio from multiple computer devices, we'll look at a way to do it that provides ultimate control for the front of house mix. The iPad outputs a stereo left and right channel signal from its audio output. So what we need to provide is a way to convert this so we can connect either a summed mono or left channel mono signal or a stereo signal from each iPad device to an individual channel of your PA system as appropriate. We've opted to demonstrate receiving each signal as mono in this example, as in the live performance environment, mono signals are generally much more practical to deal with than stereo. The accompanying article will go through this in more detail and will outline the specific reasons that make it so. What we're looking at in the solution provided here is a relatively large ensemble of 12 performers, each with their own iPad as an example. Let's trace the connections from one of the iPads to the stage box and all the way to the PA, and detail the devices, connection jacks and cables involved so you can see exactly what's going on. Starting at the iPad, we have a stereo headphone splitter cable. This allows us to connect a set of stereo DJ style headphones for each individual performer's audio monitoring, while simultaneously connecting a 3-meter stereo breakout to twin TRS cable, which provides a separate stereo connection cable to what's called a DI box on the floor below. The DI box shown here can send either a single left channel mono output via a single XLR cable, if appropriate for the virtual instrument being used in the iPad, or it can connect two XLR cables. This allows us the option to send both the left and right channel of the stereo signal to two separate channels of the mixer for true stereo reproduction if required, which is often the case for a performer controlling a whole virtual drum kit on their device, as drum kit emulations tend to have very specific preset pan positioning of drums in the stereo field. It's also an option to use DI boxes that can perform true mono summing of a stereo signal, which will essentially merge all stereo audio info into a mono signal that you can send out via a single XLR cable. However, such DI boxes are normally used in high-end professional audio setups, so they are very expensive. In this example, we're just grabbing the left mono channel of each iPad to keep it simple. So, to summarize so far, we're going into our DI box from the stereo breakout cable connected to our iPad, and are coming out of the DI box with a single XLR cable. The XLR cable runs along the floor of the stage to what's known as a stage box or stage breakout box. You can see that all 12 of our XLR cables from the 12 DI boxes under each music stand connect to the stage box. The stage box itself is connected to an output called a multi-core cable or multi-core snake, which is a much heavier cable. What the multi-core snake really is in our example here is just the internals of 40 XLR cables all wrapped up into one big heavy cable. There are 32 inputs, of which you can see we're using a dozen here, and 8 separate outputs on the other side. With XLR connections, it's handy to remember that the 3 pins usually represent a signal going out, normally from the rear of a microphone or device to the mixer, or from the mixer or stage box to a speaker, and the 3 holes usually represent a signal going in. That way you shouldn't get confused between inputs and outputs on stage boxes and other mixer hardware. I've left the outputs empty in our virtual example here to avoid confusion when explaining the wiring. But you'd normally see these connected to the foldback wedge speakers we can see on stage, and possibly to the main front of house speakers on the far left and right of stage 2. If we follow the multi-core snake along its length, you'll see it leads all the way to the mixing board, avoiding the error-prone and cumbersome need to run 12 individual cables over the distance. Usually you'll see the inputs, outputs and the breakout set of XLR connectors color-coded, so it's easy to keep track of connections. As far as connecting our iPad performers to the mixer and PA goes, that's pretty much all there is to it. At this stage, as the sound engineer, you'd have someone on stage go round the circle and test the output of each iPad, so you can set up the gain stage of each channel on your mixing board as appropriate for the loudest volume that each iPad is likely to output. So to wrap up, hopefully this helps to alleviate any apprehension you may have about tackling this type of performance setup. With just a little attention to detail in getting the connections right and ensuring all performers can hear each other and themselves on stage, when it's mixed through a reasonable PA system, this type of performance can really sound amazing. Keep an eye on the Music EdNet space for more articles and videos that lift the veil from the mysterious world of live sound. In particular, check out EdNet TV for a 1-hour seminar titled Introduction to Digital Mixing, which will take you from the very basics of analog mixing through to an overview of today's cost-effective but very powerful, easy to use and non-intrusive digital mixers, which are also mentioned in the article accompanying this video. Once you have a little confidence in this area, you'll find it can be loads of fun for teachers and students alike, and is a valuable and rewarding educational experience for all involved.